So we now move on to the final factorization technique where you have 4 terms, so you should be using the grouping in pairs method. So let's move on to question 8a. So for part A, we've got an x cubed minus x squared plus x minus 1. So when you see 4 terms, I want you to start grouping in pairs, or start to think about grouping in pairs, because it almost is the case in the advanced course. So the way it works is you only look at the first 2 terms and you just factorize it as you would normally. So an x cubed minus x squared. I notice that I can factorize an x squared out. So if I take an x squared out of the x cubed, I'm going to have an x remaining. If I take an x squared out of that one there, I'm going to have a minus 1 remaining. And then you're going to have a look at the latter 2 terms, right? And you go, well, sometimes you can factorize it, but in this case, x minus 1, there's nothing common to both of them to factorize. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that exactly as it is. Now, what I'm also going to do here, because I know I'm going to be using the grouping method over here, is maybe just for visualization purposes, I'm just going to put a bracket there so we can visualize that we essentially have 2 terms now, right? We have this as our first term, that as our second term, of which there is one major common factor that we can factorize out. I'm talking about the x minus 1. So if I take out the x minus 1, I'm going to have something remaining on the inside. So if I take, where's my pen? So if I take x minus 1 out of this first term, I'm just going to have this x squared remaining. So then that part there will be x squared, because that's the only part that remains when you factor the x minus 1 out. Now, if I do the same thing for the second part, if I take an x minus 1 out of this one over here, what remains is a positive 1, essentially, because it's positive 1, which we generally don't write, brackets x minus 1. Right? So we have a factor of positive 1 remaining. That there is the latter half of that second bracket there. Right? So long story short, with the grouping method, you look at the 2 terms and you factorize them as much as you can. In the next line, you further factorize because there generally will be something that's common. Let's do another one just to make sure we're really comfortable with this idea. So once again, for part B, we've got 4 terms. xy minus 5x minus 4y plus 20. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to only look at the first 2 terms and factorize what we can. I can take an x out, in which case I have a y minus 5 remaining. Now have a look at the latter half, see what's common that we can take out. I can take out a negative 4. So if I take a negative 4 out, I'm going to have a y minus 5 remaining. So just pause the video if you need to, just to digest how I've got these factorizations. But just to clarify with that second part there, I've taken a negative 4 out, so you're going to have a y remaining from the first term. And if you take a negative 4 out from a negative 20, you're going to have a negative 5 out. Remaining, sorry. Let's continue. We've got a y minus 5 and a y minus 5. Those 2 things are the same, so we can factorize a y minus 5. And then you just basically write down what remains. The x remains, the negative 4 remains. That's the factorization for these 4 terms. So with the grouping method, if you have those 4 terms, think about the grouping method. The way it works, separate those 4 terms into the first half and the latter half, factorize what you can, then you further factorize in the following step, because there normally would be something that's common. Hey everybody, if this video helped you, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It supports the channel and helps me keep making more free content for you. I'll see you guys next time.